Welcome to the Parker Daniels Show, where amazing stories are shared.
And be hopeful, hopeful, and he'll make a way. I know it ain't easy, but that's okay.
Parker Daniels Show on a beginning of a college football season. Let me turn this off. And I'm going to get ready to root for my LSU Tigers. Today's topic, my story on how I survived my addiction, with Ashley from the YouTube channel ashVlogs Self-Made. I'm also joined with my co-host, from Rose Cutter Glasses, Nicole, and we welcome each of you. We want you to subscribe, hit the notification bell, like, and share the videos. Again, my story on how I survived my addiction.
Hi, Ashley. How are you this
Good.
afternoon? Good. So we are going to be talking about addiction today, and I want to, like I said, start at the beginning. So give us a brief history about your childhood.
Okay, so it started when my parents got a divorce. No kid wants their parents to divorce. And as soon as my parents got divorced, me and my dad didn't have a relationship much. He was very in and out. He really did try to be a good dad. He just couldn't. And then she met somebody else and he was abusive. It's been rough, and I haven't seen my sister in God knows how long, but I don't know, it's just been really, really rough. And it's funny because when I was younger, I used to be so upset with my mom about all these things, and like I said before, my favorite saying is, don't look down on anybody because that could be you one day. And I ended up being the same way and going through a lot of the same stuff. And I'm no longer angry at my mom. I'm not angry at my dad. I forgive them because I'm not doing the forgiveness for them. I'm doing it for me. I have to forgive people for myself, or I'm never going to heal,
Yes. So let's talk about your school years, because I want the viewers to understand where and how your addiction started. So first, it was when you were a child from parents getting divorced and you're not really understanding why, and having to struggle with stepdads and boyfriends coming in and out of your life, that could damage a child. So let's talk about your high school years. What happened in your high school years that also could have contributed to your anxiety and depression?
I wasn't really doing good in school. I could not learn. I could not be in a classroom with 20, 30 people. It just was not happening. I would miss school. At that time I was partying a lot. Like every weekend I would be drinking or whatever. So I didn't really care about going to school. I didn't care about anything, there was so much going on in my life. I just didn't care. And, it's all stemmed back from then, everything that I've been going through. And, I could not learn. I could not concentrate. I would get into fights at school. They ended up having to put me in a private school, so I could learn. And thank God I went to that school because I was not passing at all. I was getting really bad grades, like F- grades, And I think I missed 30 days one year of school, and it was bad. So I ended up going to this other school. I was learning a lot. It was very hands-on. We would go actually to the places to learn. If we were doing something on Gettysburg, we would go to Gettysburg. If we were doing something in Philly, we would go to Philly. Like, we would go to the Bell, we would go to the museums, you know what I mean? We would stay overnight.
Right.
It was very hands-on, and I was learning more that way than I was with a teacher. And you know, one teacher teaching 30 people. I mean, how can you actually do that? And you know, our school system is just like jail, except you can leave. The you know, just the way the school's structured, the food, you know, the way that they want you to be structured, everything, it's a lot like jail.
So I'm going to push forward a little bit. When were you actually diagnosed with anxiety and depression, or did you kind of already know it? And what types of things did you do to make yourself feel happy or make yourself feel in good spirits?
Well, I kind of knew that I had some kind of depression, anxiety when I was younger, because like I had issues like breathing, and I would feel a certain way, like, you know, like not like asthma, you can't breathe, but like I would start having like panic attacks, and I would cry, and you know, I'd be really depressed. I was sleeping a lot. So I went to my regular doctor at 13, and he put me on Prozac, which is an antidepressant. It also helps with anxiety, and it has less withdrawal symptoms. You know, like a lot of like Effexor, Celexa, they all give you like this withdrawal symptom.
Yes.
Like it gives you buzzing in your head, and it makes you feel even worse, like you really want to kill yourself. And it was really bad. So he just put me on Prozac, and you know, I was on that on and off like since I was 18 till I was 18.
Okay.
And but you know, I wanted to really feel better, so I just ended up doing drugs. I ended up like,
what kinds of drugs did you wind up getting into?
I started drinking when I was 13.
Okay.
And then 15 I started getting into pills like Adderall. Adderall was my biggest one, I would say. Ambien. I would take Ambien and keep myself awake so that way I would feel hot. I would take the cold medicine that has that DMX in it, or DMXM in it.
Okay.
And I would take a whole box of that just to trip. So, like, I was doing things, just anything, just to feel better, you know, and it was very unhealthy, and it wasn't good. It was not good.
Okay, it was very self-destructive. So, we're going to fast forward a little bit. When you said, you know, you met your husband, exactly when did you meet your husband, and how did that come to be? Did that kind of ease some of your pain, or did it make it?
I actually, at the time, I just had gotten out of school like a year prior, and I wasn't really even looking for anybody. I was just partying with my friends, you know. I moved out of my grandparents' house at like 17, 18, and we were just having a birthday party for me, and you know, we were having a couple drinks, and we were smoking weed or whatever, you know. It wasn't anything hard at the time. It was just drinking and smoking weed. And you know, he came with one of my friends that I knew before him. They came up in their little Benz, and he came onto the porch, and we just started talking, and we really vibed. Like, we had a connection like that, you know what I mean?
Right.
And it was really bumpy in the beginning because he was actually trying to get out of a relationship. He was living with somebody, and it was really hard. So we stopped talking for a good 6 months, and I just wanted nothing to do with him at that point, you know. When we first met, he actually took my girlfriend aside, and he's like, is she single? Because I really think she's hot. Like, he was just one of those people, you know. He was the type of person that if he walked into the room, he would make everybody's day because he always had he had these piercing blue eyes and a smile from ear to ear. Like he lit up the room. He was just that type of person. He would make anybody happy, you know? And I just felt the connection right then and there with him. I was just, you know, and he felt it too. Like every time I saw him, he would have this big ass smile on his face, you know, and he had like this, he was like a white Tupac, you know, like he dressed with baggy clothes and he just, I don't know, he just had this bad boy vibe. He was such a good person though. I mean, very giving, very funny, and a lot of fun to be with, you know. And he loved me so much. Like the things he did for me was crazy. Like not in a bad way, I mean in a good way, you know. Not many people can find the love that I did, and I'm just grateful that I had the 11 years that I did with him. I mean, we had some crazy times together and good times, you know. Good and we stuck through, you know, we stuck with each other no matter what.
So as we were talking off camera, we talked about there's been times because of your drug addiction that you and your husband both had spent some time in jail.
Yes.
Can you talk about the very first time that you actually found out that he started using and the first time that you and him both actually went to jail because of using?
Actually I started using first with the Percocets. He was not okay with it. He did not like that I was going from doctor to doctor, hospital to hospital, just to get a bottle of Percocets. He really did not like it. At that time, he was very much against heroin. You know, his brother was an addict. One of our friends were, you know, a lot of our friends were addicts, and he just was very much against it. And I don't know what clicked in his mind the one day, but we were both like, you know what, this is ridiculous. And I was actually the one to be like, you know, let's try it. Like, it was a mutual decision. It wasn't me talking him into it. It wasn't him talking me into it. You know what I mean? We did not put a gun to each other's head and say, you have to do this. Like, it was a mutual thing. And when we first started using, we had a place to live. We were living with his grandparents, and then we had to move out of his grandparents to go to my grandfather's because the Morris County Child Services came in, and we didn't want to keep having issues because people around where we were living were calling on us. So we moved to my grandfather's. He was in the middle of nowhere, you know what I mean? And it was whatever. So we ended up moving to my grandfather's.
So why were they calling the...
Because I think one of the family members was going into our room and finding things, and they were going behind our back and, you know, making phone calls.
Okay. Did you guys ever have a place together on your own?
Yes, we did once. We lived, you know, we had a little apartment, and he ended up actually doing a stupid trick on one of our friends' street bikes, and he ended up breaking his leg. So at that time, I just had my, you know, I was 8 months pregnant. I couldn't work.
Right.
And I was big. Like, I was like, my ankles were always swollen. I was always tired, you know. So I ended up staying in the hospital with my husband for that week that he was getting surgery on his leg. He lost like 300 bone fragments in his ankle.
Oh, goodness.
So he could not work. He had like a cage around his leg, everything. It was like a really big thing. So our friends were coming over to help us, you know, with the baby. Because when I had my daughter, I could not walk. I got an infection in me. So I ended up, that was the first time I took Percocet. I didn't get addicted yet. I was just taking it for the pain at that time. And then it was years later that I started to really get addicted to it. But we ended up losing that apartment because neither of us could work, you know what I mean? And it was too small. And then you know, with our friends always coming over, people just had big mouths where we were living, so our house became hot, which means the cops were looking at the house, DIFUS was looking at the house, so we had to leave there because everybody kept coming over, and it wasn't like it was like right on by the street, the house, with houses around it.
Right.
So we had to move back in with my grandfather at that time. So I mean, we had that place probably for a good 6 months until we had to leave. We had our own car, everything. I mean, we've had like 3 cars already, 3 cars. We lost all cars. It's been really, really rough.
So my question to you is, you and your husband both were at the time addicted to drugs, and you had a daughter. At what point did you guys say to each other that maybe this is bad to bring around my child?
Well, we did stop at one point for a little while when, child services came in. I was on this medicine called Suboxone. I was going to a doctor. I was getting all my medications from her. I was getting counseling. You know what I mean?
Right.
He was the type of person that did not want that stuff. He didn't want to go from one thing to the other. He just wanted to clear it out of his system and be done, type of thing.
Right.
That was how he was. So we stopped for a little while, and the DIFUS worker she was very shady. There's paperwork that she lost. She kept adding things on to our stuff,
Right.
saying her recommendations were that I get off the Suboxone. I mean, excuse my language, she was a bitch. She was a bitch. We had to file complaints with Trenton. We had to, there was a lot of things that were going on that just was not right of her. You know what I mean? So we complained until we got a new caseworker. The next caseworker comes in, same thing happens. Our very last caseworker was the one that actually wanted to help us. He even said, they should be on this medication. They should be on doing this. They should, you know what I mean?
Right.
I said to her, lady, if I get off this medication, what do you think's gonna happen to me? You know what I mean? What do you think I'm gonna go do to feel better? This medication is keeping me from running in the streets and putting a needle in my goddamn arm.
So at what point, how old were you when all this was going on?
When I had my daughter, or
yes. While all this is going on?
Well, when I had my daughter, when I got pregnant, I was 20, and then when I was 21 is when I had her. When this was going on with DIFUS in Blairstown, where I was living with my grandfather, I think I was about 23, 24.
Okay. So you also mentioned at a point that you wound up losing your daughter and both of you went to jail?
Yes, we lost our daughter. Well, at this point, when I told you about what happened with the DIFUS caseworker wanting me to get off my medication, she had already been out of our care.
Okay.
We were only getting visitation at this time, and that's when she kept adding things to our stuff. And the reason why my daughter was taken, she wasn't abused and she did not need or want for anything, okay?
Okay.
We didn't even use in front of her. But, they frown upon people being on drugs with kids.
Yes.
But the reason why she was even taken is because my husband got into a car accident. He was passenger. He got into a car accident. I had to go take my daughter with me to the hospital. There was a family plan in place saying that we were not allowed to be alone with our child. My grandfather and my mother had to be there at all times. Well, when this happened, nobody was home because one was working and the other had doctor's appointments, and I couldn't wait. My husband just got into a car accident. So right. I had to take my daughter and go to the hospital. So my mother because she thought that she was going to get in trouble if they just popped up, told the caseworker what happened.
Right.
So the next day, they show up with state police. We were giving her a bath. I got her dressed, and the lady just ripped her out of my arms. My daughter was screaming, crying, "Mommy, I don't want to go. Mommy, I love you. Where am I going, Mommy?" Because we were good to our child. If we weren't, she wouldn't be like that. You know what I mean?
Right.
So that is why our daughter got actually taken, is because of that situation. And I'm like, he was in the hospital. What do you want me to do? He literally had his seatbelt on and he landed into the windshield.
Wow.
He broke his back. We got a settlement from that. That's gonna be more like that. We're gonna get to that part because that has everything to do with what happened this past year and leading to his death. He got
Okay.
$111,000 settlement out of that. So that helped us get off the street, but it also made us use even more, you know what I mean?
Yes.
So that's what happened with that. But the caseworker was just, I don't know, she really, and the one day we were at court, because we had court like every month to do a checkup, and the one day she comes up to me and she says this to me in private. My husband was somewhere else talking to his attorney or something, and she says, "Miss Kuhn, not many people, it's very rare that people get their child back. And you probably aren't going to." Who says that?
That's so sad.
That's a caseworker. She's supposed to be a professional. She's not supposed to say that stuff. She's supposed to like encourage us and like really want to help us, and she didn't. She made it worse. And
so
you have up to 16 months to get your shit together, and she just kept adding on to our case. Adding, "Oh, you have to go get this done. Oh, you have to go get that done. Oh, you have to go get a hair follicle done. Oh, you have to go get," you know what I mean? They just kept adding, which made the case longer. Now, the last guy came in. He was great. He really tried helping us get our daughter back. He tried helping us with housing. But at that point, it was too late. You know, everything was too late. It was too late. So then my mom's like, "All right, I'm going to try to get her back." So my mom tried getting her back, and, you know, stuff happened there where she couldn't. And she was very close to, and things happened between her and her boyfriend, and the school found out. And, you know, then she got taken from my mom. So now a very nice family has her. They actually knew my grandfather because they all show animals at the fairs.
Right.
My daughter's doing that now. So my grandfather, when he was alive, he knew them, and they're very good people. So I'm glad she's stable and she has a good family that allows us to have me to have a relationship with her.
So let's talk about the last time that you used, and you and your husband both actually got put in jail, and the point to where it led to his death.
Okay. So we got arrested. I think it started in 2016 was the first time that we got arrested together. We were only in there for 15 days. We were living on the streets. Our friend actually snitched on us. A good friend of ours that was going with my husband to Patterson, New Jersey, like giving him rides. And my husband was the type of guy, even if gas cost $20, my husband would give them 10 bags or 20 bags and like $20. So that's like, I'm gonna say that's like close to $100 worth.
Okay.
Would always hold this person down, take care of them, make sure they had stuff, you know what I mean? He snitched on us. He brought us over to this woods by his house, And he called the cops and said, I know where these people are. And they have this, that, and the other thing on them. So the cops were looking for us for like 3 days straight. We were always running, like we would walk down to the like A&P, like the supermarket, and the cops would be driving up and down the road, and we didn't know why. They kept coming up there, and they would look right at us, and then they would turn the lights on, so we would have to run. So we were on the run for like 3 days till they caught us. And that was the first time we got arrested. Now, we were living in a tent. We were living wherever we could live. My hair was such a mess. I didn't have a hairbrush. It was such a mess. It was in such a big knot. One of the girls in jail had to brush it out for me, get the knots out. I mean, we were a mess. I had pimples and pick marks all over my face. It was horrible. So we were locked up for about 15 days that time. We got released. We got a new court date. We didn't go to that court date. And then we got, we were on the run for a little bit. I forget how we got caught the second time. I don't remember. But we got caught somehow. We got caught up. And we ended up staying in jail for 3 months that time. Our bails were way too high to even get out. I mean, his was $50,000 and mine was $30,000.
Okay.
So we couldn't even get out. That was like a no-go. You know what I mean? Nobody was gonna bail us out. Nobody had the money, that kind of money, to bail us out. So we sat there for 3 months. We were. Oh, I know how we got arrested the second time. Me and him got into a really bad fight because we were both sick. We were staying in this hotel called Hunter's Lodge. Somebody.
We are live right now. I don't know if we lost or not. You still there, Ash? Nicole?
I'm here.
Hold on. Ash? Yeah, she left. Hold on a second.
Stop the thing.
Okay.
Yes, I am hopeful for today. Take this music and use it. Let it take you away.